So today I'm going to go over something that some of you have asked me about, specifically what microphones do I use on my kit. There are many different options that even I would choose from. It's not always the same, but predominantly here in the studio, I'm using this one set of microphone. So I'll just go over what I'm using now. We start off with the kick. So with the kick drum, I know many people like to use the D112 AKG mic. I'm not a big fan of that microphone. It's in almost every rider I've ever received for running sound live, but in the studio, I just don't like it. I don't even like it live. It's real boomy. You can get all the depth you want out of an EQ. It's just not my mic preference at all. That's not to say that it's not a decent mic for some applications, but I can honestly say for me, I'm not a big fan of that microphone. All right, now, one of my favorite microphones to use on the kick, ironically, would be an SM57. That's a real quick fix, but the best and most favorite microphone that I have for the kick drum is what's called a Shure Beta 91A. Beta 91A, it's not a standard microphone. It's a condenser microphone that's surface mount. So you just set it on whatever you're trying to record, or set it in whatever you're trying to record, or set it near whatever you're trying to record. Some people use it for boardrooms, for recording their speech. Some people use it for overheads, for overhead mics, for cymbals. And a great way to use that microphone is to take a piece of plexiglass and then take one microphone and glue it on this side, and another one and glue it on this side. The plexiglass keeps the polarity proper, so this is the left side, this will be the right side, or vice versa, and you don't go into any kind of phasing issues. They sound really, really good. Again, it is a condenser microphone. In the past, people would use PZM mics. They would use a Crown PZM mic, and they sound great. Don't get me wrong, they sound really, really good, but they're lacking a little bit, for me anyway, they're lacking a little bit in depth. You'll get all the crispness that you want, but when you want to get a little bit more of the roundness, the meat out of the cymbal, you're missing just a little bit. However, that's not to say that you, on a PZM, you can't get a great tone, because you can. And people use that microphone in the same way. You put a piece of plexiglass, you mount it here, you have two different ones, and they handle the stereo field, the left and the right field. That's a great way to do it. The majority of people, when you see microphones live or in the studio, they'll put just overhead pencil condenser microphones. These condenser microphones, they sound good, but you wouldn't want to use a pencil condenser in the kick drum. But this surface mount condenser really, really sounds good. You can get almost anything. Audio-Technica has one, AKG, the Shure Beta 91A is definitely my favorite. The Sennheiser is probably my second favorite. If you want to go really cost effective for a surface mount mic, Apex is a great solution. They sound really, really good. Very, very close to the 91A. And it costs about, I think it's probably about 5 times less. It's a very cost-effective microphone. The Beta 91A is about $250. The Apex mic is, I don't know, $50 or $70. It's a great solution for the kick. Now that's if you're using a surface mount mic. If you're just wanting to go with something real cost-effective, there are other ways to go. But again, when you use that microphone, you really crank up the low end. You'll have all the high end attack that you want, but when you want to feel the low end punch, specifically, you'll end up using your EQ to compensate for what's not there with that condenser. However, you will definitely, with EQ, you'll get as much low end as you need, and yet the punch is still there. On a lot of my recordings, I've changed some of the EQ on the kick just so people can hear kick a little bit better on smaller devices. When I'm recording live, I don't have to do that. That's one of the reasons why when you listen to a live recording or a studio recording of a certain song and you're listening to it with your phone, you're missing the low end unless you listen with earbuds. Listen with earbuds, you'll hear the full depth of it, but your little phone speaker just does not produce those lows. Okay, having said that, that covers the kick drum for the most part. The snare drum is different. You can 57. A lot of people use a 57, but when you hit the snare drum, or if you miss the snare drum, you can hit the tip, and the tip breaks off. It's a good sounding mic. I think it goes up to 16K. It's like 20 to 16K. It gives you all the high end and the bandwidth that you're looking for. But my favorite by far is the Audix, and I hit it pretty often. So this is the Audix. It's the i5, and you can see it's a solid piece of metal here. So if you hit it, you'll just get a stick mark on it. It doesn't bend. In another video, I specifically spoke about snare drum microphones, and one of the snare drum microphones that I like a lot that also has a metal around the diaphragm of the microphone that protects it is specifically the Audio-Technica ATM63. Not the ATM63 HD or whatever it is. It's a different microphone. The ATM63 they don't make anymore, at least that I know of. They haven't made it for a while. So the ATM63 is a great microphone to go with, but my favorite is the Audix i5. You'll see a lot of guys using it both in the studio and live. Okay, now for the toms. All right, here in the studio on my floor tom, I'm using the Takstar TA8320. Okay, it's real tiny. It's a very beefy microphone. It's solid metal with the metal windscreen, and it sounds really good. They're very cost effective. This is a great sounding microphone. This is what you hear on my floor tom. However, on my rack toms, I'm using Sennheiser microphones. If I didn't have the Sennheisers, I would be using these. Really, I just haven't pulled the Sennheisers off. This microphone, it has the same meat and the same setup. The clips for these are really, really good. I personally clip them onto the rim in this studio, but if I'm cutting an album track and not just doing a drum demo or whatever, I would use it on a stand. I wouldn't actually put the microphone on the rim itself, which deadens the head just a little bit, you know, just that pressure on the tom itself and on the arm that holds the tom. It tends to take some of the resonance off. But again, I mean, you won't notice it so much here. When you're in the studio and you just have to have the best of the best, then use it on a stand. But again, this Takstar is very cost effective. This 8320 is cost effective, and it sounds masterful. The Sennheiser tom mics, you could almost get any of them, and they sound great. They're just a lot more expensive. Okay, now that's the toms. My hat mic, I've used many of them. I'll show you this one as well. Okay, all right. So my hat mic, this is one of my favorite. This is the AT3031. This one was my favorite microphone of all time. I don't have it anymore. It was stolen from me. I had a pair of them on the overheads, and they were taken from me, and so I had to do something as a quick fix replacement, for here in the studio. What I did was I actually had a pair of Apex 185s. And they look similar to the AKG mic. It has the roll off. It has the decibel switch on it. And I can honestly tell you, there's not much of a difference between this mic and the AKG. The AKG is one of my favorite, but this mic, this Apex 185, it just sounds great. On almost all of my videos, you can hear, even with the phone, you can hear the crispness of the hi-hat. All right, so that's one of my favorite. Now, the Audio-Technica 3031, if you have the money and you want to spend it, that's a really, really great overhead. You can also use an SM81. Those are great microphones for overhead. And I'm sort of jumping ahead of myself. But again, on the hat, this Apex 185 is a great microphone. It's a great microphone for overheads or hi-hats. You can pick and choose. Now, what I'm using right now on the overheads, it was actually part of the kit, is the Takstar PCM 6100. Okay, so this microphone, it came with the kit. That was really cost effective. I didn't know what to expect, but then after I started using it, I was like, yeah, I actually like that microphone quite a bit. Now, I'll say this microphone is not an AT3030. I will also tell you that the Apex 185 sounds better too, but it's solid metal. It sounds really, really good. It leaves it up to you as the engineer to record it. And as long as you record it properly, this microphone will sound great. Ironically, I'm not using room mics here in the studio. I might add some room mics later for these drum demonstrations. That's the reason why you hear almost everything close mic'd, but you don't hear any of the room. Any of the room that you hear will be specifically the overhead microphones that I use. All right, so that kind of wraps it up. So what I'm using here in the studio, just to wrap it up, is the Beta 91A for the kick drum. I'm using the Takstar 8320 for the floor tom. I'm using the Sennheisers for the other three toms. And I'm using the i5 for the snare drum. And for the hat, again, the Apex 185. I might actually buy one more of these and just put it on the overheads. But for now, I'm very pleased with the PCM 6100 Takstar. That's the long and short of what I use for drum mics. This microphone that I'm speaking on right now is a great vocal microphone. It compares to my Sony C800G, which was stolen from me as well, but the C800G cost $25,000 brand new. I was actually surprised to see that. I thought it was somewhere around $7,000, but it's actually gone up to $25,000. The C800G, you can probably get it used for maybe around $5,000. That was taken from me as well. This microphone, this Takstar microphone, I knew how good they were. Once I got the kit of the Takstars, I said, well, let's just see what it sounds like as a vocal microphone. So I get this Takstar PC850, I think is what it is, and it is as close to the Sony $25,000 microphone as I've ever had. I would use it as a room mic, but it doesn't sound good as a room mic. It sounds amazing as just a plain microphone. It does not pick up the whole room, and I love that. So when you're singing, you don't hear any other reflections from the room. It comes with its own windscreen, so I don't use it as a room mic. If I was going to use a room mic, by far, the Apex 435 is the most amazing, least expensive microphone I've ever seen in my life. And there are many engineers that will tell you the same thing. It's amazing on guitar. I might even do a demo using that microphone for guitar. It's phenomenal. And they're about, I don't know, $90, $80. They're incredible. It's a microphone that will surprise you or any other engineer. It has the depth that you want. It has the clarity, the crispness, everything that you would ever want in a microphone. It's the best room mic I ever used by far. One time I did a demo and I stuck just the one microphone up and I played the drums just as a demo, just to build a song. And after I finished that, I was fighting, trying to get the same quality within the drum track of just that one microphone, because the drum track itself, tones were missing the room sound that I was able to achieve with that one microphone. And by the way, that microphone is amazing for acoustic guitar, amazing for vocals, amazing for room. You could probably even use it as overheads, although I would say it maybe picks up a little bit more than you would want for overheads. And having said that, that completes the microphone setup that I use and that I would recommend. I hope that helps you out a lot. I'll see you on the next one.